Hey there besties! Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're continuing our recap of the manhwa, Lucia. If you're new to this series, check the description below for links to previous episodes. Lastly, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy the video. It really helps our channel grow. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get started. Anna met with Phillips in his cabin. A blend of medicinal herbs that smells of vanilla. How did she know? He asked, laughing when she told him her ordeal with Lucia. Let me meet with the Duchess. I promise you that is the cure, he tells her. You already know that isn't allowed. Why are you being kept at arm's length? What sort of offense have you committed? Anna asked, almost shouting, looking tensed as she held her temple, feeling slight headache. It's only a personal matter. It has nothing to do with my abilities as a physician, Philip tells her. Are you just going to give up on the Duchess like this? He asked her. What other option do I have? Sure, you may be able to explain to her grace if you meet her in person, but as I've told you, meeting with her isn't possible. Anna snapped. Anna, I will not give up on a patient, he said, causing her eyes to widen. Then, I will ask his grace once he returns, Anna said calmly. But I'm certain the Duke will never permit me to meet with the Duchess privately. The Duke is away from Roham inspecting his lands. Now is the perfect opportunity. Another chance like this might not present itself again, Philip thought, clenching his fists. The patient's desires take precedence above all else, he tells Anna. Inwardly, Philip knew Hugo remained oblivious to the three-leaf mugwort secret. Yet, should he administer the herb to the Duchess and she conceives immediately, he'll catch on to his involvement in no time at all. And he'll undoubtedly find a way to prevent the child from being born. Therefore, the Duke must remain unaware of my involvement when the Duchess becomes pregnant, he said inwardly. I must meet her grace. Once I'm face to face with her, I'm confident I can convince her, he thought. The most important factor to consider right now is whether the patient wishes to have a child or not. His grace has already acknowledged a bastard son. Do you genuinely believe the Duke would desire the Duchess to have a child of her own? He said out loud, causing Anna to look in shock as she listened to him, not recognizing the figure before her any longer. Nobles can be a cruel lot, unlike folks like you and me. Their affection for their wives and sons is entirely separate. The Duchess needs a child to ensure a stable and joyous future. Do you not feel even a trace of sorrow for her grace if she were to remain without children? He asked, planting his thoughts deep in her as she bowed her head, reasoning his words. Anna was aware that while their graces were currently in a content marriage, it was customary for nobles to maintain separate lovers even after matrimony and indulge in their desires. In the end, their children were the only ones they could depend on. She recalled the estate servants whispering and gossiped about the pity they felt for Lucia, who had to accept an illegitimate child as her son shortly after marriage. Anna clenched her fists, her hands trembling. I felt the same way as they all did, she thought. I will speak with her grace, she said out loud to Philip. This is for her sake, she thought. In Lucia's chambers later that evening, Anna met with Lucia. Your Grace, regarding the physician I mentioned the other day, the one who taught me that remedy, they wish to meet with you, she tells her. Is that so? Then I shall see them, Lucia tells Anna. But Your Grace, I must inform you that he is the Taran family's personal physician, Anna said, her voice getting quiet. The Taran family's personal physician? What of it? Does that pose any problems? Lucia asked, sounding unsure. Let me explain. The butler sought me out recently and disclosed that this man is deemed a potentially dangerous figure currently under surveillance. He also emphasized that this man must never meet with you and that his existence needs to remain unknown. I heard it was a direct order from His Grace, Anna said. By revealing this to me, it appears you've committed a serious transgression by disobeying the order not to say anything to me, Lucia replied, her face calm. Yes, I know. I will take accountability, Your Grace, Anna said calmly. And how will you do that? Lucia asked. I will resign as Your Grace's physician. I've proved myself unworthy, she said calmly. But Your Grace, that physician promised to cure you no matter what. He desires a meeting with you to provide a full explanation, Anna added, her voice confident. Lucia shut her eyes briefly before opening them back. Anna, what transpired with the medicine before, and even what you're telling me now, none of this would have occurred if you had been attentive to your duties, she said. Yes, I'm fully aware. I've overstepped my bounds. It was my sincere desire that I could heal you so you could hold a beautiful baby in your arms, Anna said softly. Anna, I want to know the name of the physician that wishes to see me, Lucia said. His name is Sir Philip, she replied. I knew it. It's him, Lucia thought, recalling the travelling doctor's face from her dreams. By the way you addressed him, it appears he has a title, Lucia asked. Yes, Your Grace. He's a baron, Anna replied. Being both a nobleman and the Duke's family physician. I can't help but wonder why he was roaming so aimlessly. What on earth was unfolding at the Duke's residence at the time I had that dream? Lucia wondered. As the years passed, she withdrew from society, ignorant of the events in the outside world, let alone the intricacies of high society. Though it was the most peaceful chapter in all my dreams, I must admit, I find it rather regretful now. How I wish I had been more curious about the world and had welcomed it with open arms. But why did Hugh stop Sir Philip from meeting me? He's just a physician. If Hugh had never wished to lay eyes on Sir Philip again, he could have simply banished him. So, why did he go to the extent of assigning people to monitor his every move? She wondered, pondering over Anna's words. Considering Sir Philip is the family physician, has he ever spoken about his long-standing service to the Taran family? She asked Anna. I heard his family has been serving the Taran household for generations, Anna replied, causing her eyes to open in shock. She recalled Hugo's words that night. I can't tell you everything. I don't ever want to speak of it. These secrets must die with me, he had told her. Secrets he does not wish for anyone to know. Sir Philip knows what they are, Lucia thought. Your Grace, I can assure you he is a reliable practitioner. I've observed him closely while learning from his expertise. If you were to meet with him, I am confident he will find a way to cure you, Anna said confidently. Lucia was quiet for a moment. I will not see him, she said, stunning Anna as she looked tensed. If Sir Philip truly knew the secrets of the Tarans, Hugh would have surely silenced him. Yet, Sir Philip remains alive, suggesting there's more to this story. It's just my theory. However, there's one thing I'm absolutely certain of. Under no circumstances does Hugh want me to meet with Sir Philip. Even if I meet with Sir Philip, it cannot happen now during Hugh's absence and without his knowledge, Lucia thought. As both a physician and someone working for the Taran family, you've committed a grievous error. I can forgive the mistake you made as my physician, but unfortunately, the same leniency can't be extended for your defiance of His Grace's orders. You will be relieved of your duties, but this won't take effect immediately. We're likely to journey to the capital soon, so continue your duties until our departure, Lucia tells her. Anna was tensed. As you wish, Your Grace, she replied, letting a sigh. During tea, Lucia informed Jerome on her discussions with Anna the previous night. Jerome, Anna informed me that the family physician desires a meeting with me, but I also heard that some time ago, you issued an order to keep him at a distance, she said, causing the butler to flinch as chills ran down his body. That is correct, Your Grace. His Grace commanded me to do so, he replied. Even after I warned her, Anna still went ahead. If Her Grace desires a meeting with Sir Philip, there's nothing I can do to prevent it now, Jerome thought. I have no intention of meeting with him. I'm sure His Grace has his reasons for giving that order, and upon his return, I shall inform His Grace of what happened myself. So there's no need for you to speak with Anna again, she said, causing his eyes to open in awe. Yes, Your Grace, Jerome replied calmly. She is wise. Serving a prudent duchess like her is truly a privilege, he thought, a smile thugging on his lips. At night, Jerome welcomed Fabian as he returned to Roham. Welcome back, Fabian, he said, as his brother approached him. It's been a while, Jerome. I didn't think you'd be waiting outside, Fabian said, climbing the steps as he approached Jerome. His Grace is still away, Jerome informed him. Oh, is that so? Is the Duchess doing well? Fabian asked, causing Jerome to glare at him, making him tensed. Why are you looking at me like that? He asked. Oh, I thought you might say something ridiculous again, Jerome replied. Something ridiculous? Like what? Oh, you mean what I said about His Grace just having his fun as a newlywed? Jerome asked, smiling at his brother, causing him to look flinched. Oh, come now. Don't make that expression, he laughed, tapping Jerome lightly with his elbow. He wore a calmer look as he watched Jerome. I know now that isn't true. Seeing His Grace stay with one woman for over a year is something I never thought possible. It's certainly a first. His Grace is known by everyone as a complete womanizer, but I've never seen him that way. Not once has he exchanged even a hint of affection with the women in his company. All those relationships seem to be nothing more than a means to alleviate his boredom. To think that someone like him is captivated by one woman, who would have thought such a day would come? But I guess such sentiments aren't easy for you to grasp. While I have a lovely wife, you're still unmarried, after all, Fabian said, chuckling. You just can't help yourself, can you? Jerome said, looking flinched. The next morning, Lucia received a guest. Your Grace, Lady Milton has arrived, her handmaid informed her. Lucia, have you been well? Came the familiar voice of Kate as she walked into the parlor, her face bright. Kate, Lucia exclaimed, smiling as they hugged. There hasn't been a single moment when I've been unwell. I'm so happy you're here. How are you feeling? I heard you had a terrible fever, Lucia asked as they broke their hug. I'm all better now. If I wasn't, I wouldn't have been able to visit you, Kate replied, smiling. It's been such a long time, Kate, Lucia said softly. Lucia had pleaded with Hugo to let her visit Kate when she was sick. Hugh, please allow me to go, she pleaded. No. Considering your already delicate health, there's a risk of catching a fever if you go there, he insisted. It's just a quick visit. I won't be there long enough to catch a fever. Please, say yes, she pleaded, her eyes sparkling. Please, she said gently. Okay, he said. Just then Lucia's eyes shone bright, her cheeks flushed. I take that back, he said, declining her request. I know you must have been very ill, and I apologize for not being able to come and see you, Lucia apologized as they sat down for tea. I don't even have to ask. I'm certain the Duke's the one to blame. It couldn't be more obvious, Kate thought, forcing a tense smile. It was actually better that you didn't come. I would have felt awful if you had gotten ill as well, Kate said calmly. I don't even want to think about what the Duke would have done. It's frightening to even imagine the outcome, she thought. Anyway, your tea party is approaching, isn't it? Time really does pass swiftly, she said calmly. It certainly does. I can't believe it's just around the corner, Lucia replied, looking cheerful. I'm so glad that I've recovered just in time for your party. It's been ages since we've had a tea party together, Kate said, looking flushed as she smiled. I would have felt quite disappointed if your illness had prevented you from coming, Lucia replied, smiling. Apart from the occasional small tea parties, Lucia never partook in any other social gatherings. Yet, before she realized it, she had become a central figure in high society. In the northern social circles, all eyes were on her. Despite her considerable influence, it seemed as though her presence lingered only in the shadows. It was almost reminiscent of Duke Taran, who governed the north while orchestrating everything behind the scenes. Not that Lucia was all aware of this fact. I heard the Duke is currently away, conducting an inspection of all the properties, Kate said, dropping her tea in its saucer. He is. His Grace is usually away for no more than 4 or 5 days, so he should be back today or tomorrow, Lucia replied. That's wonderful. In that case, you can obtain his approval for an outing in no time at all. It's gotten warmer as of late, so the fox hunts will commence soon. We should go together, Kate said, smiling. I'd be delighted. But are you sure it's okay for you to attend an outdoor event when you've only just recovered from your fever? Lucia asked, looking concerned. Of course, it's not a problem at all, Kate exclaimed, smiling. Given that your pet fox isn't here anymore, I suppose you'll just have to watch, Kate tells her. That's more than enough for me, Lucia said warmly. Just then, the sound of trumpets could be heard. Trumpets? Kate wondered. His Grace must have returned, Lucia exclaimed, beaming with joy, her cheeks flushed. Oh dear. I hadn't anticipated His Grace's return at this very moment. What should I do? I've never met him before, Kate thought, getting up from her seat. Oh, Kate. You're a guest here, so there's no need for you to come out. I'll be back in a moment, Lucia said, smiling as she left the room, leaving her behind. Kate sat down back, reflecting on her smile as she told her Duke Hugo had arrived. She really does adore her husband, doesn't she? How endearing. Despite the widespread rumors of the Duke and Duchess's blissful marriage, many remained skeptical as no one has witnessed them together. Moreover, those who have encountered the Duchess in person have subtly hinted that she might not possess the beauty to captivate the Duke's heart. They couldn't possibly grasp Lucia's true value over a few cups of tea. Lucia exuded a unique aura that exceeded what met the eye. She's the kind of person who lingers in your mind, much like the lingering aroma in a room once adorned with flowers. I completely understand why His Grace has fallen for Lucia, Kate sighed as she sipped her tea. Suddenly, the door opened calmly, drawing her attention. Lucia was ushered in by Hugo as he held her hand. "Ah, Hugh. Wait," Lucia pleaded as she followed him. Lucia. And the person with her. A handsome man with black hair, Kate thought, watching the Duke shut the door behind them before leaning in, kissing Lucia affectionately, causing her heart to beat faster. Her face flushed as she watched them quietly from her seat. They're not just blissfully married, they seem to be completely head over heels for one another. It's almost as if I'm about to witness something I shouldn't, she thought, watching them in the moment, their faces flushed as they kissed. Kate was stunned to see Lucia sink into the moment as they embraced in their kiss. After a few moments, Hugo broke up their kiss. "What's wrong?" he asked. Lucia's cheeks were flushed. "We have a guest," she stuttered, looking shy. "A guest?" Hugo thought before noticing they were not alone in the room. He saw Kate standing up. "Lady Milton," he said, calmly. Kate looked flushed as she saw him for the first time. "Milton? The one I've heard so much about," the Duke thought. "He's huge," Kate thought, looking astonished, her cheeks red. "A pleasure to make your acquaintance, Your Grace. I am Kate Milton, daughter of Count Milton," Kate said, quickly greeting politely despite her flushed cheeks and beating heart. Lucia remained still as she backed Kate, trying to hide her flushed face. "The pleasure's mine, Lady Milton," Hugo said, nodding calmly. "It seems I've interrupted your tea time," he said softly. "Oh, no. Not at all, Your Grace," Kate stuttered, her heart beating faster and her face turning red. Hugo held Lucia's shoulder before kissing her once more, stunning her. "Have a pleasant time," he said grinning before leaving the room. Kate was flustered. "It's as if a whirlwind swept through here," she thought. Lucia turned to meet her gaze as the room was silent, their cheeks flushed. After a brief moment of silence, she spoke up. "We were just speaking about the hunt, weren't we?" "When did you say it was?" Lucia said, smiling on the 5th. "I do hope you can make it," Kate said, chuckling as she tried not to stutter. "I've never witnessed a couple so full of passion before," Kate thought. In his office, Hugo was enraged by Fabian's report. "Countess Falcon has frequented that place numerous times and you're only just informing me now?" he demanded. "My apologies, Your Grace. It was an oversight on my part," Fabian said, looking tensed. He watched the Duke's cold gaze as he was seated. "Thank heavens I didn't report to him any later. I just barely saved my neck," he thought, trembling slightly. How does that woman know about Vivian's friend? The nerve of her, snooping around in Vivian's personal affairs, Hugo thought. "Ashin," he called. "Yes, Your Grace," he said quickly, looking flinched. "Withdraw all investments and funds allocated to businesses or merchant guilds affiliated with Countess Falcon. Do it now," he said, his words commanding. "Right. This instant. Shouldn't we consider giving them at least a month's notice?" Ashin said, looking tensed. "Do it now," Duke Hugo said, his cold stare sending chills. "Of course, Your Grace. I'll get right on it," Ashin exclaimed in obedience, trying to hide his fear. He pulled all those funds just because he felt offended. What's next? The sun rising in the east as well. The Duchess really is the one with the most power here, Fabian thought. "Fabian," Hugo called. "Yes, Your Grace," he replied quickly. "Give her a clear warning. Any more nonsense and next time, it'll be her head," he said coldly. "Yes, Your Grace," he replied, looking tensed as he bored. He's been completely bewitched by the Duchess, Fabian thought. Lucia had tea with Hugo. "You want to attend the fox hunt?" he asked. "Yes. The weather's getting warmer, so Kate suggested that we go," she said calmly. "But you no longer have a fox, so what point is there in going?" he asked. "It's quite fun to watch from the sidelines," she said, looking flushed. This is all her doing again, Hugo thought, looking flinched as he blamed Kate inwardly. "You'll allow me to go, won't you?" Lucia asked, looking soft, her eyes sparkling as she pleaded with both hands clasped. "Fine. Go and enjoy yourself," he tells her. "It's going to be held in 5 days' time," she said smiling warmly. He watched her smiling. "Tell me, did anything else happen while I was away?" he asked. Oh. While you were gone, I was told that the Taran family's private physician wished to meet with me, she said, stunning him. What? He asked, his facial reactions changing. I gave explicit orders for the others to prevent her from learning anything about the old man, he thought angrily. You needn't get upset. It was my physician who defied your orders. I heard that you inquired about my progress from Anna every week. She must have felt a tremendous amount of pressure. It's been decided that Anna will resign, so I urge you not to mete out any punishment to her, Lucia said, calming him. He pondered for a brief moment before saying fine. Your family's physician was so confident he knows the cure, she tells him. I see. There's a good reason behind my efforts to keep you from meeting him, he said, squeezing his hand gently. Yes, I know. You wouldn't have taken such measures unless it was necessary, she replied, sipping her tea. The old man wants nothing more than a bride for Damien. Harming her is probably not his intention. Except that Vivian cannot bear a child of Taran blood. She doesn't know anything and ends up filling her days with nonsense, he thought. After a brief moment of deliberation, he spoke up. You can meet with him if I'm there with you, he tells her. I'm sure he won't say anything absurd if I'm there too, Hugo thought, looking tensed. He didn't want me to know anything about Philip, and yet clearly, he's not keen on me meeting Philip, but he's allowing it for my sake, Lucia thought as she observed his worried look. After a brief silence she asked, has this physician done you any harm? Why haven't you taken any action against him, given your animosity? She asked. You see, I'm indebted to him. He saved my brother's life several times, he said calmly. There are other reasons as well. Currently, the old man is just an average doctor, barely surviving. I have no intention of ending his life unless he poses a real danger, he thought. I see, Lucia said calmly, her gaze down. I feel relieved. The man who assisted me in my dreams wasn't entirely a bad person, she thought. Speak with him if you wish to. He says he knows how to cure you, Duke Hugo said calmly, his facial expression down. If nothing else, his competence as a physician is undeniable. For Vivian's sake, meeting him is the only way, he thought. But you don't trust this man. Besides not wanting me to be acquainted with this person, I doubt you're eager to see him either. Do you really feel comfortable relying on this man to handle my treatment? She asked. Well, I may not trust him, but if there's even a slight possibility of curing Vivian, Hugo thought. To tell you the truth, I know the cure, Lucia said, startling him. I didn't get a chance to tell you when you first learned of my condition. And shortly after, I said nothing because I was upset with you for pushing me to seek treatment. So, to put it simply, I don't require the assistance of this physician at all, she said happily as she rested her chin on her hand, her face smiling. It's my decision not to cure myself. I don't have an illness. This has no impact on my daily life, and my health is fine. I can cure myself whenever I choose, she said, his gaze surprised. What? Duke Hugo thought. This is such a relief, he thought, looking at ease as he held his sweaty head. Is that right? He asked. Are you feeling more at ease now? Lucia asked, looking at him calmly. Yes, he said, softly. Then, did you make that decision because of me? Because I told you I don't want a child? He asked, looking up. I understand where you're coming from, so it's all right, she said, touching his hand. We can take our time before deciding on whether we want children or not. If it's something you don't want, then I don't wish for it either. I promise to let you know if I ever choose to fix my condition, she said softly. If that's what you want, then okay, he said, his face flushed. That evening, Sir Philip stood by the bushes as he observed carriages going in and out the estate. Duke Taran must have returned by now, so why haven't I heard from Anna yet? Given the Duchess's current situation, there shouldn't be a more urgent concern for her than having a child. I thought she'd resort to any means necessary to find a cure. Something's not right, he thought. He went to her house. The Duchess refused to arrange a meeting with you. I'm sure the Duke is aware of everything by this point. Regardless of the efficacy of that remedy, the Duchess nearly ingested that medicine, and I wasn't even aware of what was in it. I could have lost my head for something like this if the Duchess had not kept it a secret, Anna said, looking devastated as she rested her face in her palm, her body trembling as she cried. Philip was quiet as he watched her. It appears I've caused you quite a bit of trouble, he said. No. I was careless. How could I do something so irresponsible and foolish? I won't hold the position of Her Grace's personal physician for much longer, she said, stunning Philip. This can't be, he thought, looking dumbfounded. After today, I won't have the chance to see you again. I wasn't cut out for that position anyway, that I'd only be returning to my regular life, she tells him. The goal I hope to achieve is right before my eyes. So must I give up now? Is the final thread of connection I had left now being severed? He thought, looking perplexed. Should you decide to resign, I'm convinced it would be a significant loss for the Tarans. To think they'd let go of someone as capable as you, he said, his hand trembling slightly. Have I failed? When I've barely done anything. Does this mean the end of the Taran bloodline? Philip thought, looking troubled. I'm far from capable. I wasn't even able to find a cure for Her Grace. All I really did was concoct some medication to help with her headaches, just once or twice a month. The payment for my services was beyond what I deserved, Anna said, her face down with sadness. You administered medication for her headaches? Philip asked, his face lighting up. At night, Lucia slept soundly in Hugo's hands. He watched her sleep, lost in thoughts. He remembered her words. It's my decision to not cure myself. If it's something you don't want, then I don't wish for it either. I promise to let you know if I ever choose to fix my condition, she had told him. But Vivian, it's not your body that's the problem. Regardless, I can't say that you can't have a child. If you ever learn the truth, you might leave me, he thought, squeezing her lightly as he hugged her. Why did I have to be born with this body? I truly feel cursed, he thought. Just then, Lucia woke up, rubbing her eyes. Hugh? Why are you still awake? She asked, opening her eyes slowly. I always felt a sense of relief that I wasn't going to leave behind any traces of my family. However, she thought. Did I wake you? He asked softly. No. I woke up because of the dream I had, she told him. What was your dream about? Hugo asked softly. I don't really remember, she said softly. You once mentioned Damien looked just like me. Do you recall? He asked. She watched him briefly before letting a smile. Yes. It felt as if I were looking at a younger version of you. I can imagine Damien becoming more like you as he gets older. Perhaps he'll even be taller than me the next time I see him, she said cheerfully. Duke Hugo was lost in thoughts at her words. What would it be like seeing a child that's the spitting image of Vivian? A little girl who is the mirror of Vivian's young self. What would her daughter look like without the distinct jet black hair and blood-red eyes of the Taran bloodline? He wondered. Are you having trouble sleeping? Lucia asked softly. No. I was just about to close my eyes. Go back to sleep, he said calmly, his face lighting up. All right. Sweet dreams, Hugh, she tells him cheerfully as they embraced. I never imagined I would yearn to raise children and have a family like everyone else. But the one thing I can't give you is a child. What if this breaks your heart one day? And what will I do if the day comes when you plead with me to start a family? It feels as though I'm trapped in an endless maze, unable to find a way out, Hugo thought as he watched her sleep. In her chambers the next morning, Lucia addressed Anna. Anna, the medicine you've concocted for me this time is truly working wonders. After I took the medicine, my headache quickly faded away, she said cheerfully, causing the doctor to beam happily. If you find this medicine agreeable, I'll whip up plenty more of it before it's my last day, she said warmly. I would greatly appreciate that, Lucia replied, smiling. Sir Philip said this medicine was a family secret. I don't know how I'll ever thank him, Anna thought, inwardly happy. That evening, Sir Philip observed the castle from a distance. He reflected on his last conversation with Anna, where he had given her a new list for Lucia's drug. If the Duchess is familiar with the vanilla-flavored herb, then I'll need to leave that out. Considering this isn't the standard formula, the expected 1 to 3 year duration for the remedy to take effect will likely be prolonged by twice as much. Additionally, her chances of getting pregnant may decrease significantly, he thought as he handed the list to Anna. Are you sure about sharing this prescription with me? I thought you said it was passed down within your family. You've even written down all the ingredients. Aren't you even a bit concerned that I might use this for my own financial benefit? Anna asked, looking worried. While I have no desire to make money by selling medicine, I think you should strive for a better life than mine. Moreover, if numerous people can access genuinely effective medicine, it would be for the greater good, he tells her. She held the paper close to her. I'm indebted to you even right up until the very end. Thank you, Philip, she had said excitedly. Back to the present, Philip turned, walking gently away from the castle. The rest, I leave up to fate. But fate has never let me down, not even once, he thought, a smirk growing in his disguise. Lucia had tea with Kate one afternoon. It's quite hot these days, don't you think? Kate asked. The weather's gotten so warm that I can hardly sleep at night, Lucia said smiling as she raised her teacup. You too? I couldn't sleep well all night, so I ended up sleeping in, Kate tells her. Though the weather isn't entirely to blame. Hugh always sleeps so closely to me, Lucia thought, looking flustered as she sipped her tea. I can't believe it's already your second summer here in Roham, Kate said softly, her hands resting on the table. I can't believe it either. Time sure does pass by quickly, Lucia replied softly. Today feels like yesterday, and yesterday feels like today. Perhaps that's why it seems like time is slipping away so fast, she thought. Lucia typically rose not too early in the morning to start her day. Occasionally, she engaged in activities like riding, chatting and sharing tea with Kate, or even hosting a tea party. As the afternoon gave way to evening, she joined Duke Hugo for dinner and took a leisurely stroll around the estate. After her bath, she carved out a little time for reading. Even on nights when they don't share a bed, Hugo comes to visit. He asks if she had a good day and what she spent her time doing, always gazing at her with those affectionate eyes. She found herself questioning if it's truly all right for her to be so content all the time. Am I really allowed to feel such joy? Lucia thought as she enjoyed herself in the summer. In the midst of these peaceful days, Lucia forgot one undeniable fact that she couldn't halt time. One evening, Hugo broke the sad news to her. His Majesty has passed away. It seems we must get ready to depart for the capital, he said. She froze a bit as she fixed her gaze at him. Any more than a stone can resist tumbling off the edge of a cliff. Lucia's hair began beating harder. The future she once saw in her dreams was unfolding. Lost in the bliss of my current life, I completely forgot. No, perhaps I wish to erase it from my memory, she thought, clenching her fist. None of the king's children were born legitimate, meaning that no one could claim legitimacy and be part of the line of succession. Conversely, this also meant that any one of the princes could potentially ascend to the position of crown prince. As the king approached his end, excluded from the line of succession, most of the 26 princesses were still alive. In contrast, only a quarter of the 20 princes, the crown prince among them, remained with their lives intact. While Lucia comfortably resided in the royal villa, tensions were high at court as a bloodbath had unfolded. The crown prince skillfully guarded his life, but he couldn't completely suppress the other princes vying for the crown. This was precisely why he needed Duke Taran by his side to keep his rivals in check and fortify his authority. Lucia was sure that all those noblewomen were now aware that she wasn't as soft as she appeared to be with Hugo positioned at the forefront. His schedule will probably be more demanding than it was here. Should we journey to the capital, he might grow less fond of me. Once he encounters all the beautiful women there, he could abandon me, she thought, lost in thoughts. Oh, I never thought I could feel so literally terrified, she thought. Are you listening? Hugo asked, snapping her back. What? She replied, looking up. He wore a sad gaze. Is everything all right? He asked. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was just pondering. Has His Majesty always been in such poor health? When do you plan on leaving? She asked. As soon as dawn breaks, he tells her. I must get there as quickly as I can, so I'm afraid we can't go together. However, you can follow safely behind once you're ready, he tells her. All right. Then I'll prepare to leave as well, she replied calmly. Later that evening, Lucia was at the balcony watching the estate when Duke Hugo stepped in. Your mind was elsewhere throughout dinner. Tell me, what is it? He said, drawing her gaze. It's just. A whirlwind of emotions hit me. And the thought of leaving here saddened me too, she said looking tensed. Then should we continue to stay here and not leave for the capital? He asked, joining her as he resting his hand on the terrace like her. Nonsense. I remember you saying that His Highness would lend a hand in resolving Damien's situation. There's so much you can do at the capital, she said, pouting. Sounds to me like you're saying I need to go there for his sake, he said, placing his hand over her shoulder. You're his father. It's your duty to do what you can for your son, she said softly. I wonder if he'll ever realize the amount of trouble I went through for him, he said. I'm sure he will. Damien's not the type to be so oblivious to things like that, Lucia said smiling. Even so, he'll only want to keep spending time with you, she tells him. He slid his hand gently on her face. Anyhow, travel safely. Be sure to take breaks during the carriage ride so you don't wear yourself out in the heat, he tells her. We have plenty of servants to look after me, so you needn't worry, she said smiling as he leaned closer. I do believe that Hugh harbors strong feelings for me, but all of his past lovers residing in the capital, along with countless enchanting women who will undoubtedly be drawn to his charisma. And then there's the woman from my dreams, the one who's supposed to be his wife. I can't shake this sense of anxiety. The capital holds so many uncertainties. I'm afraid that you might leave me, but you'll probably never know how terribly anxious I am, she thought as they kissed. I don't want you to go to the capital. I wish we could stay here. I believed I could love in a manner that wouldn't make me dependent on you or become a burden to you, that I could stand on my own, but it seems I overestimated myself. What was I even thinking? She thought as their gaze was locked as they broke their kiss. A knock came on Duke Hugo's door as he was in his office. Your Grace, your bathwater is ready, Jerome said, entering the office. I'll be there in a minute, he replied. He was quiet as he watched the paperworks before him. If I depart for the capital, then what about the north? If I leave, rats like the ones I've dealt with before will undoubtedly scheme to seize my power once more. That wretched old man, couldn't he have held on for just another year? Why did he have to pass away right in the middle of summer? He thought, holding his head as he let out a sigh. I'm concerned about subjecting Vivian to such a lengthy journey in this scorching weather. She's weak enough as it is, he thought. He returned to her room that night to find her sleeping. She's sleeping. Once we depart for the capital, I won't be able to keep a watchful eye on Vivian all the time. She hasn't told me her childhood name, let alone her true feelings, he thought, approaching her bed calmly. He heard her murmuring in her sleep. Vivian, he called, shaking her gently, but she didn't respond. He raised her in his hands, seeing her in his arms. She was still, her face red as she was drenched in sweat. Vivian, he called, his face growing worried. Lucia's maid soon appeared before him. Shortly after her Grace withdrew to her chambers, she vomited and turned in early for the night. Her Grace hadn't expressed any more discomfort, she said as she remained on her knees before him. Lucia's breath was heavy as she lay in bed. Why didn't you call for the physician right away? Is this how you've been serving your mistress, with such negligence? He asked coldly, sending chills down her body as she trembled. Forgive me, Your Grace, she pleaded. It appears that Her Grace is suffering from acute indigestion. However, I can only give Her Grace medication once she regains consciousness. Our primary concern at the moment is to bring down her fever by gently wiping her body with damp cloths, Anna said, observing her. She was fine during dinner. If this is simply indigestion, why is she running such a high fever? He asked her. Indigestion can cause high fevers, and in some cases, it may induce widespread bodily discomfort as well, Anna replied. Did Her Grace mention anything to you about having a headache? Anna asked, glancing at the maid. No, she mentioned nothing of the sort, she replied, still tensed. Can indigestion also trigger headaches? Hugo asked. Yes, but I was only checking as Her Grace often experiences migraines, Anna tells him. Migraines? He asked coldly, causing her to flinch. What do you mean? How often does this happen? He asked. Perhaps once or twice a month, Your Grace. I've been providing her with medicine to alleviate the pain, Anna tells him. Why is it that this is the first I've heard of this? He replied. Her Grace mentioned that informing Your Grace about her condition wasn't necessary as it's a minor ailment that many people have. She had informed me that she has suffered from these migraines since her childhood. Migraines are a common problem that many people experience, and Her Grace doesn't have a severe case, so there's no need to be alarmed, Your Grace, Anna said, trembling slightly. He wore a cold gaze, watching her. She trembled and looked tensed. Just then maids entered the room holding a bowl of water and towels. They arranged them by Lucia's bedside. Leave us. I'll do it myself, Duke Hugo tells them. Alone in the room with Lucia, he gently wiped her body with the cold towel as he dipped them in the cold water, squeezing gently. How many hours did she have this fever? She experiences frequent migraines. Perhaps Anna was correct about this being a common problem and that there's no need for concern. But it still angers me that I was kept in the dark about something so seemingly trivial, he thought, watching her sleep calmly. Vivian, when will you finally open your heart to me? He thought. In her sleep, Lucia recalled moments earlier when Duke Hugo held her hand, walking through the hallway. "Hugh, where are you taking me all of a sudden?" Lucia asked, but he didn't reply. He led her to a room, shutting the door behind them. "Hugh?" she said, looking unsure. He hugged her passionately, surprising her. "You dislike it if I do this in front of the servants," he said warmly, still hugging her. That never stopped him before. In fact, he's done this and other things so often that the staff have grown accustomed and don't even take notice anymore, she thought, blushing. Lucia gave in to his hug as she sank into his embrace. They remained in each other's embrace before Lucia broke it up, pushing him calmly. "It's hot," she tells him. "Can't you let me hold you a bit longer without reminding me it's hot?" he asked, looking flushed. "But it is," she tells him. "You can be so insensitive sometimes," he said, holding a lock of her hair. Lucia smiled, watching him, her flush evident. "Hugh proved to be such an attentive husband that my initial decision to remain emotionally detached in the early days of our marriage seemed entirely unwarranted. It's possible that the North's customs, valuing both fidelity and love in marriage, have shaped his behavior in this manner. Except for the Northerners, it was a common occurrence for nobles all across the empire to spend passionate nights with others outside of their commitments. This was especially true in the carefree atmosphere of the capital, where one's marital status held little relevance when seeking new romantic partners. Will it be possible for Hugh and I to stay as we are once we arrive in the capital? I have a feeling it won't be that simple." Secretly, Lucia longed in the depth of her heart for those peaceful days to continue. "That feels nice," she thought as she recalled their warm embrace, her eyes opening slightly from her fever. She glanced her eyes gently as she turned slightly. "Hugh?" she mumbles. Duke Hugo flinched as he saw her awake. "Vivian, can you hear me?" he said, looking worried as he held a towel. "Look at how worried he is," Lucia thought as she watched him quietly. "Hugh," she said, reaching out to him. Hugo didn't waste time in holding her hand, kissing it gently as he rubbed it against his head. He paused to watch her, her hand still in his hand. "My stomach was in knots, and it wasn't because I was feeling sick," Lucia thought, a tear dripped down her eyes. The Duke flinched. "Is anyone there? Get the physician now." He shouted quickly but paused when Lucia squeezed his hand gently. He turned to meet her gaze, seeing the tear in her eye. "Should we journey to the capital?" "I don't want you to go to the capital." "Will it be possible for Hugh and I to stay as we are once we arrive in the capital?" "I wish we could stay here. I'm afraid that you might leave me." "It will be okay. Even if we leave for the capital, I'm sure nothing will change between us," Lucia thought as memories of their moments flooded her mind. "It's inexplicable, but I now have the belief that the solid foundation and happiness we have will withstand anything," she thought. Hugo dried her eye with his hand, cleaning the tear. "She's still warm. Where is Anna?" he thought. "Hugh," Lucia called gently. "Will you seek out other women once we're in the capital?" she asked. "What? What are you talking about?" he said out loud, looking tensed. Given her high fever, she must be disoriented. Why would she ask something like that right now? Or maybe she's asking me because she's feeling out of sorts, he thought, calming down. "I would never do that," he said calmly, causing a grin on her face as she smiled. "It seems you don't trust me at all," he thought. "That's all I needed to hear," she said, closing her eyes lightly. "I'll believe what he says. Should he court other women, the Hugh I know wouldn't engage in secret affairs behind my back while deceiving me. Rather, he would forthrightly communicate his intentions with me. After all, he's a terrible liar. But the political dynamics in the capital require a certain level of cunning. Will he manage all right?" she thought, groaning slightly. Anna rushed into the room, settling by Lucia's side while Duke Hugo watched calmly. "Your Grace, how are you feeling?" she asked. "Anna," Lucia called gently. "What does she mean by that?" That's all she needed to hear. "That can't be the end of it. Why would you ask me such a thing? It's astonishing how challenging it is to truly possess someone's heart. And it appears I've failed to earn even her trust at that," Hugo thought, his facial expression sad as he watched them. "I'll prepare a remedy for your indigestion and queasiness. A restful night should see you waking up feeling better, Your Grace," Anna said. "I'll have a maid deliver the medicine shortly, Your Grace." "Please, just give me a moment," Anna said, excusing herself as she left the room. "Thank you, Anna," Lucia said as she shut the door behind her. The Duke rested beside his wife again. "You should have called for someone if you were feeling ill," he tells Lucia. I didn't realize I'd get so sick, she tells him. That was careless of you. You even lost consciousness, Hugo said, his voice serious. Has dawn broken already? I apologize for causing you to lose sleep, especially with your early departure in mind, she said, trying to change the topic. That's not the issue here, he argued. Lucia watched him gently, her gaze simple. He went mute. I can't believe her. I'm not angry with Vivian. I know she hasn't done anything wrong. I just find myself feeling hurt, he thought. I heard that you often feel unwell, he asked softly. Me? Unwell? Lucia asked, her face surprised. Your migraines, he said. Oh, it's nothing to be alarmed over. It's similar to how some people deal with chronic stomachaches. I, on the other hand, just experience the occasional headache, she said smiling. Is it something you can't permanently get rid of? Duke Hugo asked. When you put it like that, it sounds as if I'm suffering from a serious illness. But there's nothing to worry about. I'm fine, she tells him. Regardless, I hate to see you in pain, he said, holding her hand, causing her face to look flustered. I'll make sure to take better care of myself, she tells him. I'm not trying to scold you, but I need you to tell me if you're ever hurt or in pain. As your husband, I have a right to know, he said, holding her hand gently. Lucia's heart beat faster, her face fully flushed. Okay, I promise, she said smiling. Just then, a maid stepped in with a tray. Your Grace, I've brought you your medicine, she announced. Even in my dreams, this is the first time anyone has stuck by my side, showing concern for me when I'm ill. Ever since I moved away from my mother, Lucia thought as Hugo helped her seat up, administering the drug to her as she drank it. He glanced at her as he helped her lay down properly. I feel far less anxious. So long as he's here, everything will be all right, no matter what challenges may come our way, she thought as he tucked her in and kissed her head. Lucia soon drifted off, sleeping peacefully. Duke Hugo let out a sigh of relief. I'm relieved to see that she appears to be feeling much better. It's time for me to depart soon, but will she be all right on her own? He thought as he lay beside her, watching her sleep. In the middle of the night, Hugo woke up from his sleep, hearing some mumbling sound from Lucia. He jolted up. Vivian, he said gently shaking her, but she didn't respond. He saw a repeat of the earlier symptoms. She breathed heavily and had fever. He grasped her. Duke Hugo couldn't hide his frustrations when Anna came into the room. Did you not say it was merely indigestion? Explain yourself. She couldn't even manage to take her medicine, he barked in anger. It appears her indigestion is far more severe than I initially thought, Anna said, trembling, her eyes in fear. Even before the sun came up, Vivian's fever returned. She vomited up the medicine she had struggled to swallow, enduring waves of pain as her temperature fluctuated persistently, he thought. It makes no sense for her to be this ill. He shouted at Anna. Your Grace, Anna was about saying, her hand trembling. Is this the Duke's true nature? His terrifying. I can feel every inch of my body going numb. If my efforts to treat her Grace fall short, he'll end my life, Anna thought, looking terrified. Was there anything that occurred that might have shocked or upset her Grace? Severe stress is known to exacerbate indigestion, she said, despite shaking slightly. Severe stress? Other than the news of the king having passed, there wasn't anything out of the ordinary, Hugo thought, pausing to reflect on her words. He looked startled when it hit him. Was Vivian that shocked by the king's death? He thought in realization of possible causes. Oh, that's right. The king was her father. She typically spoke only of her mother and never her father, so the fact that the king was her father slipped my mind entirely, he thought, remembering her telling him it was just a whirlwind of emotions that had hit her. Having no emotional ties to my own father, I must have underestimated the profound sense of loss that a regular person feels upon losing a parent. My delivery of the news lacked the empathy it deserved. It's maddening how apathetic I was, he thought. Hugo remained by her bedside all night, trying to cool her by using the cold towel. He monitored her sleep all night, her fever reducing. Lucia's health improved gently from the following day. Lucia, although weak, tried eating something. It's so hard to swallow anything, she thought. Everything she tried to eat came right back up, so she only had barley tea for the past 3 days. She was only now able to handle some light soup. She lay tiredly in bed for hours. It's as if my body has turned into a cotton ball soaking up water. I must have been more anxious about heading to the capital than I realized. I never expected to feel this unwell, she thought. She suddenly felt someone feel her head with the back of his palm. Your fever's gone down, came the familiar voice. Hugh, opening her eyes softly to see her husband at her bedside.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure. If you enjoyed what you watched, please consider liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. Your comments mean the world to us and help us improve. The next episode promises even more excitement and unexpected twists, so stay tuned as we embark on this thrilling journey together. Keep the anticipation alive, and we'll catch you in the next episode.